I honestly don't like to make comparisons. But it's impossible to play Alundra and not compare it to Nintendo's Zelda series. Alundra has a lot in common with Link, mainly in the use of tools and in the exploration of scenarios, why not say too, in the puzzles. But if there's one thing that makes Alundra a unique game, it's its story. Unlike Zelda, Alundra has a more adult story, more serious and with serious consequences that affect the entire plot of the game. Starting with the appearance of the hero in the central village of the game, Inoa, until the events that lead him to fight for the people of the place, a lot happens and ends up shaping, in some way, the entire character of the central character and even the player too with the game. Alundra is one of those RPG games that appear, few people end up knowing the game, and if they soon disappear, without saying when they come back and come back. If you want to know a little bit about this game, I will be happy to show you some details about it. In this game, we control Alundra, a dream walker, as he is known at the beginning of the game. Dreamwalkers are special people who can enter people's nightmares and dreams and manipulate them in ways that do good for them. However, as everywhere, there is always someone who uses such force to do evil, and in this case, Melzes is the villain of the day, turning every dream and belief of the residents of Inoa into nightmares, often fatal. Into this field of mental warfare enters Alundra, just saved from shipwreck by Jess, a former resident who had lost his only loved one recently. Gradually, as the plot unfolds, Jess ends up getting involved with the young man's story and practically adopts him as a son, establishing a huge effective bond between them. I won't go into the plot so as not to spoil the surprises. As I said, Alundra is an action RPG in the best Zelda mold. That means the combats are real-time, the map is huge and the word secret is almost a law around here. Alundra, throughout the game, gains new weapons and equipment from Jess, which are used to advance through the terrain, such as bombs to blow up walls, a chain with a thorn ball, to break columns, the magic bean to grow springs in pots, a cape to be able to enter the water, and all sorts of useful items. But the game is not just about exploring the map or scenarios. Much of Alundra's content comes from Melzes' nightmares on the people of Inoa. Entering a nightmare, it's like exploring an entire dungeon, each with its own challenges. By fully exploring it, we have a boss to face and, when leaving the person's mind, the plot has continuity. Between one nightmare and another, the player is free to explore the map in search of collectibles and money. There are some stores on the map, where we can buy from healing items to new weapons and armor, all very well laid out so as not to force the player to spend all day collecting coins on enemies. In terms of collectibles, we have gilded falcons, rare birds made from the same material as the in-game currency, scattered both across the map and in nightmares themselves. They are used to buy rare items in a shop hidden in the middle of the forest. Others are the life vessels, which are Alundra's energy. There are 50 of them in total, some quite complicated to get hold of. Alundra's controls are great. From a Zelda perspective, we control Alundra across the stage, jumping, attacking and casting spells. The enemies are very resistant, and for some it is necessary to devise some strategy before attacking. As the controls are smooth, playing Alundra is a walk in the park, where the only concern is to unravel the game's puzzles. Ah, the puzzles. Since I started playing video games, no other game has presented puzzles as hairy and creative as this one. Some made me lose months without the slightest idea of how to solve them. I remember that at the time I even had a notebook where I took notes. I had a map drawn from the game and I was researching the possible places to explore. Some puzzles even involve poetry, others a lot of buttons, levers and pillars to push. Not to mention the puzzles where you have to use magic like ice and fire intelligently. I would say that, if Alundra's charm is in its plot, everything else is concentrated in the puzzles of it. In terms of graphics, some say the game is ugly by PS1 standards. But I, as a 16-bit enthusiast, don't see any problem with the game. It does have graphics that refer to the Super Nintendo, but everything else is very well done. Magic effects, water effects, sand in the air, forests, the animation of enemies and characters, everything was done with great care by Matrix Software. In my humble opinion, it is much better looking than its successor, the infamous and criticized Alundra 2. Alundra's songs make up another high point of the game. The compositions are all classic, with an absolute highlight for the music of Lars Crypt and the map, unforgettable. There aren't many songs, they even repeat themselves a lot, but they are all neat and, even repeated, they don't get sick. The sound effects are nice too, we don't have voices, just a few grunts, but the game takes care of not making everything so monotonous. Alundra was a nice surprise for me at the time. I remember exactly how I bought the game. I saw a photo in a magazine and, passing in front of a newly opened store in the center of the city, I went upstairs to check out the PS1 games. When I saw Alundra, I bought it. And since then I've been using the same disc to play the game, proof that even the material on the disc was of good quality. Some people may remember that back then some discs crumbled over time. To finish, I would like to suggest that, for those who like Zelda, you will love Alundra and vice versa. They are different games, with different perspectives, but they have one thing in common: top-notch gameplay and entertainment, everything that, for me, is lacking in current RPGs. In summary, this game has only qualities: very beautiful graphics, memorable songs, even with repeats, firm and simple controls, and difficulty to measure, even in the most hairy puzzles. Final score, 10. Review written by Cosmo and published on the Revolution Arena website.